Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
At Kroger Pharmacy, care is what's most convenient for you. Care is being here when you need us. We're open evenings and weekends. Care is helping you save more. Most insurance plans and discount cards are accepted at your local Kroger Pharmacy. Care is saving you time by managing your prescriptions online. You can request refills, check order status, and more. Care is convenience that works for everyone. Kroger Health, a world of care is in store. Services and availability vary by location. Age and other restrictions may apply. For coverage, consult your health insurance company. Visit the pharmacy or our site for details.
Hello guys, welcome back in this 2025, and in this episode I'm gonna talk a little bit about stress because, well, we are all under pressure, so maybe some information about stress will be useful. Let's start. And by the way, you know who this episode is thanks to? Well, thanks to my physiotherapist, who fixed my clicking jaw and in the process suggested the idea of discussing how stress affects our entire body. And I have been dealing with stress for many years, although not necessarily directly in the sense that I do not strictly deal with the physiology of stress and its biological aspects, but I focus on all the effects and consequences that long-term exposure to stress brings. But this episode was not meant to be about me. It was supposed to be about stress. Well, stress is constantly around us, and we keep hearing that these times are so stressful. Everyone is busy. There's no time for anything. Always under pressure. Always in the rat race. And, well, indeed, this is true. Looking at our society, we are indeed constantly subjected to various factors that make us remain on alert. Well, we don't have to look far. Just turn on the news, and we immediately hear about inflation, war, floods, global warming, and so on. And of course, throwing out the television, computer, or not reading newspapers is not a solution. But I think we all intuitively feel that continuous exposure to such information is not conducive to our mental health. And as it turns out, it is also harmful to our physical health. Well, without delving into the details and biological complexities of stress, which are, well, difficult to describe without a brain diagram. Well, stress can most simply be defined as the body's reaction to a stimulus. This means that something must occur and our body responds. It specifically reacts by stimulating the hypothalamus, which in turn sends a signal to the pituitary gland. So it says, hey, produce more adrenocorticotropic hormone, which is ACTH, what then begins a whole cascade of reactions in the body through the adrenal glands that secrete corticosteroids until adrenaline and noradrenaline are released. And this in turn causes visible and felt physiological reactions, including increased blood pressure, increased muscle tension, faster breathing, changes in digestive system function, insulin secretion, sweaty palms, dry mouth, dilated pupils, and so on. And from an evolutionary perspective, such a mechanism is entirely justified, not only in humans, but also in other beings. Well, in situation of threat, the body needed to be stimulated as much as possible and to sharpen all senses for a short time to survive. But however, our ancestors who led a nomadic lifestyle were exposed to such stimuli for a short time and occasionally. Even those who had already settled, like for example in the very, very, very old village, the first village that was created by human beings, they did not turn on CNN in the afternoon to find out that someone had militarily attacked someone else. There was a crisis in the government, a new unknown virus was spreading across the world, or anything else in a similar tone. And although the time's living conditions and especially the stimuli that reach us have radically changed, the biological mechanism of stress has remained the same. So, well, does this mean that stress and its mechanism should be eliminated? Well, not necessarily. Well, the essence of stress lies in triggering changes in the body to adapt to a new, different situation. So in psychology, terms such as eustress and distress are distinguished. And eustress is referred to as a positive stress, subjectively felt as a kind of excitement. For example, before starting in sports competitions, on the first day of work, or while waiting for exam results. Such experiences cause our body to be energized and ready for action, but it would be difficult to say that running a marathon or changing jobs for better paying one is harmful to us. So in such situations, stress plays a rather motivating and supporting role in action. On the other hand, or on the other end of the spectrum, we may say, we have a distress, which is usually what comes to mind when we hear the term stress. Well, distress is a type of stress that has absolutely nothing to do with the positive dimension. It is this kind of stress associated with separation, the diagnosis of serious illness, experiences of violence or catastrophe that causes all negative effects on our body. And in addition to the division into positive and negative stress, stress can also be categorized by its duration into acute, episodic, or chronic stress. Well, acute stress is experienced intensely and for a short time. For example, before a job interview, before a public speaking event, before a difficult conversation with a partner, or before a wedding, during a traffic accident, and in other similar situations. So as you can see, these are quite common experiences. So this type of stress often accompanies us, and it is characterized by a rapid course, meaning the body mobilizes quickly but also returns to balance relatively quickly. In literature regarding acute stress, there is also a specific type known as severe acute stress, which typically arises in life-threatening situations and often leads to the development of post-traumatic stress disorder. So it is often called short PTSD. However, this is a separate topic, and to avoid mixing these threads, I will omit this issue for now. Well, the second type of stress, distinguished by duration, is episodic stress. This is stress that recurs from time to time. For example, working in stressful conditions that often threaten life. This type of stress is, of course, interspersed with periods of the body returning to normal functioning, but studies clearly indicate that repeated episodes of stress can worsen both mental and physical well-being and are associated with a higher risk of heart disease, affective disorders, including depression or anxiety disorders. And moreover, the very anticipation of stress, it can already stimulate our body in a way similar to the experience itself. And finally, the third and longest lasting type of stress is chronic stress, which is a situation where exposure to stress is chronic and prolonged. Such a person is in constant tension while the body does not return to an optimal state, or that optimal state lasts very briefly. And these can be situations where a person is in an abusive relationship, experiencing physical or psychological violence, or both. It can be a student who is discriminated against daily at school due to their background, appearance, or sexual identity. It can also be a person living in a war zone who constantly lives in tension and anticipation of a potential alarm. Well, in this case of chronic stress, a person is in constant tension, although this tension is not as pronounced and noticeable as in acute stress, meaning we do not notice dilated pupils, sweaty palms, or faster breathing, while the mechanism of stress and its impact on our body remains present all the time. Well, therefore, while the intensity of these symptoms may be less severe, their harmfulness has far-reaching consequences, with exhaustion at the forefront, along with limited ability to regenerate, sleeping problems, decreased immunity, digestive system disorders, appetite issues, cardiovascular problems, and I could go on indefinitely listing various symptoms because, as I mentioned earlier, the effects of stress encompass a wide range of bodily reactions and engage numerous organs. And each of them subjected to such stress for too long will eventually start to fail. Thus, it is not an exaggeration that exposure to stress is associated with various diseases, from heart attacks to depression, fertility issues, and even bruxism. Well, teeth grinding that intensifies, especially at night. Well, unfortunately, chronic stress is not only associated with purely physiological symptoms, but also, and perhaps even primarily, with psychological and emotional symptoms. While the previously mentioned eustress is primarily linked to excitement and high motivation to take action, well, this stress is associated with a whole range of negative effects, including frustration, irritability, sadness, mood swings, symptoms reminiscent of depression, such as difficulty concentrating, feelings of helplessness, sleep disturbances, anxieties, sometimes leading to panic attacks, and the risk of falling into various addictions. Well, it has been repeatedly shown that individuals with high levels of stress are more likely to abuse alcohol and drugs, and this is easily noticeable in cases of economic stress. Individuals who struggle to make ends meet often also belong to groups that smoke or abuse alcohol. And one hypothesis explaining this connection suggests that substance use allows for short-term relief from tension and other stress symptoms, but of course leads to even deeper crisis in the long term. Well, unfortunately, stress not only triggers specific reactions in the body or psychological spheres, but once these symptoms arise, we often fall into a spiral of reactions that further increases tension. Well, the simplest way to imagine this is a person who, due to chronic stress, has a weakened immune system, which causes them to get sick frequently. Well, they get sick often, so they worry about their health. Right? They worry, which leads to a lowered mood, causing them to worry even more because they begin to think that these frequent illnesses might be the result of some serious undiagnosed condition. Well, the fear of serious illness becomes a stressor, which, as you can predict, increases tension, and so on and so forth. Well, the feedback loop starts spinning faster and faster and faster and faster. And at some point, either our body will indeed not withstand the tension, or our physical or mental health will deteriorate. Or else we can attempt to stop this wheel. Well, stress acts on our body physiologically, and in the same way, its effects can be attempted to be limited. So in other words, actions aimed at calming our physiological response will inversely inhibit the impact of stress on our body. Well, and now the question arises, how can we do this? Well, in critical situations, high tension, strong anxiety states, and panic attacks, it is essential to seek a specialist who can verify the source of these symptoms and, if necessary, implement pharmacological treatment. Well, attempting to cope with critically high tension or anxiety on your own can cause more harm, especially since it may be difficult to concentrate on relaxation techniques, which can lead to further frustration and worsen your condition. However, if you feel that stress is indeed affecting you, but still believe you can at least try to manage it, you can utilize several techniques aimed at reducing tension. Well, there are countless methods for stress reduction, ranging from meditation, calming yoga, and breathing exercise to more complex techniques. Well, I won't discuss all of them because this episode would last about 40 hours, but there is one technique that I enjoy in particular. It is called Jacobson's progressive muscle relaxation technique. Well, however, I must emphasize that this is not a method that works like a relaxation pill. It's not the case that if you do this training once, all ailments will disappear. Unfortunately, no. It's exactly like yoga or meditation. If you attend a 45-minute class once, well, not much will change. You need to practice regularly, learn to perform this training because it is essentially a type of training, and only after some time will the effects appear. But, this episode has already lasted long enough, and, no one in the right mind will listen to me talk for hours. So I will cut it here. And if you want, I recommend looking for Jacob's relaxation techniques, because this is really easy to find. You can find videos on YouTube or other recordings with the whole procedure. And if you feel that you are stressed or under pressure, just give it a try. Maybe it will work out for you. And for now, I thank you for listening to this episode, and until next time, bye bye.
Fentanyl. It could be hiding anywhere, including in your house, including in your medicine cabinet, or maybe at a friend's house when you're hanging out, playing games, and get offered a pill. Don't take chances. If a drug didn't come from a pharmacy directly to you, you can find fentanyl using a simple strip you can pick up at your local pharmacy. Don't take it until you test it, because fentanyl can be hiding anywhere. Brought to you by the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Mental Disabilities.
Hardie Fiber Cement Siding is proven to withstand water, pests, and fire better than wood-based siding. And it looks better while doing it. Hardie Siding has been chosen for 10 million homes and counting. See the proof at jameshardie.com.